I want you out of my house. That was the sentence. 7 words. No shouting, no drama, just a cold, sharp blade straight into my chest. It was 7:42 p.m. on a Tuesday in late September. I remember the exact time because I was holding a stack of mail in my hand, a gas bill, some coupons, and a letter from the homeowners association about cracks in the sidewalk. I had just gotten home from work, kicked off my shoes, and told Evan to take the trash out because the bin was already overflowing. And that's when he said it. I want you out of my house. I blinked. What? He stood in the kitchen, arms crossed, hoodie halfway zipped, eyes blank, like he had rehearsed that line in front of a mirror. You heard me, he said. You're toxic. I don't need your energy here anymore. I looked at the stainless steel fridge behind him, the one I bought. I looked down at the tile floor under his feet, the one I scrubbed every Sunday. The mortgage still in my name. Every wall, every window, every inch of that house mine. But I didn't say any of that. Because the moment I looked at his face, I knew those weren't his words. That was someone else's voice. Someone had told him he deserved better. Someone had convinced him I was the anchor holding him back. I should have been angry. Furious even. But I wasn't. I just felt relief. Because honestly, this moment didn't just happen out of nowhere. It had been building like mold behind drywall. Quiet. Hidden. Until one day, the whole ceiling caves in. Evan used to be a sweet kid. He cried when his goldfish died. He made me breakfast in bed every Mother's Day until he was 15. But something in him shifted after he dropped out of college. He blamed the system, said school was a scam. Maybe it is. But then he found what he called a community. A bunch of 20-somethings on Discord, Reddit, YouTube, get-rich-quick culture dressed up like wisdom. Guys with gold watches, flashy cars, and phrases like high-value man and alpha mindset spilling out like scripture. He started quoting them, started making videos, giving advice, even though he didn't have a job. He said I didn't support his vision. I told him I supported him, but I didn't support stealing laziness or living in delusion. And that's when the arguments began. Small at first. Chores, rent, job applications. But each fight had a sharpness to it, like he wasn't actually talking to me, he was performing for someone else. So when he finally said it, get out, I didn't argue. I went to my room and packed a small suitcase. Just the essentials. My wallet, work laptop, a few changes of clothes, a charger, a toothbrush. I left the dirty laundry where it was. Left the grocery bags I had just brought in sitting on the counter. The milk probably spoiled. Not my problem anymore. He didn't even walk me to the door. I remember the porch light casting a long shadow behind me as I walked to the car. The night air in Georgia was just starting to cool. Fall had come early this year. I sat in the driver's seat but didn't start the engine right away. I just stared at the house. My house. The one I bought in 2002 after the divorce. I worked 2 jobs to afford the payments. Painted the whole thing myself. Replaced the roof with my tax return in 2014. Fixed the water heater myself when it burst last Christmas. And now I was sleeping on a pull-out couch at a friend's house. All because my only son decided I was in his way. But there's something he doesn't know. That house, still in my name. The bank account he borrowed $2,000 from, I froze it. The videos he posted online saying I was abusive saved. Sent to a lawyer. I'm not stupid. I've worked in HR for over 20 years. I know what counts as evidence. I know how defamation works. And I know Georgia civil law doesn't care how many TikTok followers you have. Facts are facts. But none of that made me happy. This wasn't revenge. I didn't want to win. I just wanted my peace back. You see, what broke me wasn't the insult. It wasn't even him yelling at me in my own kitchen. What broke me was knowing that I had seen this coming for months and did nothing. I kept hoping love would fix him, that if I stayed soft, stayed patient, gave just a little more, he would change. But you can't guide someone who sees you as the enemy, and you can't heal someone who makes a living off blaming you. So I left. No goodbyes, no tears, no begging him to reconsider. Because this time, I wasn't leaving because I was hurt. I was leaving because I was done. That night, lying on my friend's couch, staring at an unfamiliar ceiling, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Not joy, not happiness, but a kind of quiet, still peace, like finally exhaling after years of holding my breath. Evan thought he had kicked me out, but what he didn't realize was I had already left long before I walked out that door. I remember the first time Evan mentioned the name Reed Walters. His voice sounded like he'd found a savior, someone who understood him more than I had in the past 26 years. He says, "You can change your whole family's bloodline in 12 months if you learn to apply alpha financial thinking." Evan said, eyes glowing under the dining room light, the same table where I used to balance our household budget. I closed the notebook and set my pen down. "How many people have made you promises like that before I asked?" He scoffed. "You're always doubting me. That's the problem. You never believe I can succeed." Don't believe in him, I stayed up all night learning how to submit his FAFSA. I worked part-time cleaning offices just to pay for his driving lessons. I believed in my son, but I didn't believe in quick, rich schemes that promised millions for doing nothing but raising your vibration. It all started with a TikTok video Evan saw in the middle of the night. I knew because I'd passed by his room to check if he'd turned the lights off. I saw the glow from his phone screen dancing on the ceiling, a calm background beat, then a man's voice. "If your parents don't believe in your vision, cut them off. They're leeches draining your alpha energy." Evan started writing those lines down like scripture. He began to change the way he spoke. Every conversation became about financial freedom, the wage slave loop, poor mindset. He began using words like low frequency and spiritual blockage, and he was talking about me. I made dinner like always. He didn't come down to eat. I asked him to help me fix the leaky faucet. He said, "That's low energy labor. You should hire someone." Another time when I gently asked what this mentorship program with Reed actually involved, Evan slammed his bedroom door and yelled, "Can't you see he's more successful than you? You've been a wage worker your whole life." I should have said something back, but I stayed quiet. Because if I spoke, I would cry. And if I cried, he'd say I was emotionally manipulating him, just like Reed taught his students to spot in toxic mothers. Then little amounts started disappearing from my bank account. $97, the starter fee. $219, a one-on-one strategy call. $499, a course called Building Passive Income Ecosystems. I called the bank. They said the charges came from a device named Evan's MacBook. My account was still logged in from back when we used to share the Netflix password. I confronted him. He didn't deny it. He smiled. "That's an investment, Mom. You'll thank me when I triple that money." "You didn't ask," I said, trying to stay calm, "because you'd say no. You always do. You're afraid. You're small. You never take risks." That wasn't my son anymore. That was a brainwashed boy who believed his lack of success was my fault. He looked at me like I was the reason he'd failed, not because I had failed, but because I existed without being rich. Evan started live streaming every night. He wore a suit jacket, wireless headset, and talked like the CEO of a company that didn't exist. He wrote captions like, "Don't let your mom ruin your future. You need cold blood to succeed." I saved every one of those posts, not for revenge, but to protect myself. Then one night, after my shift at the grocery store, I walked in to find Evan sitting on the couch, phone in hand. "I need $8,000 to get into the internal funding round," he said. "Reed picked me as a strategic partner, but the offer expires today." I went numb. I knew I couldn't do this anymore. Not because of the money, but because I knew that if I said no, I wouldn't just lose the money. I'd lose my son. Or maybe I had already lost him long before. I didn't say a word, I just walked away. That night I emptied the rest of my main account, changed the passwords, called the bank to report suspicious behavior, requested a block on all transfers that didn't require verification. The next morning, Evan banged on my door furious. "You sabotaged me. You cheated. You stole my future." And that's when he screamed those words. "I want you out of my house." I stood still. I didn't cry. Because I had already cried for the past 3 months. His words didn't kick me out of that house, they just shut the final door between me and the son I used to know. The morning after I left the house, Evan posted his first video. The title was, "How to Survive Having Toxic Parents." I knew about it because a coworker sent me the link. "Isn't this your son?" she messaged with an angry emoji. I opened the video. 9 minutes and 12 seconds. Shot in the living room I used to mop clean. The armchair I'd bought at Goodwill last year was now his therapy chair. Evan sat cross-legged, soft yellow lighting voice low and trembling, pretending to choke up. "Growing up in a controlling environment, I never felt good enough," he said, looking straight into the camera. "The woman who gave birth to me only saw me as an investment. When I chose my own path, she turned me into the villain." In the video description, he added hashtags, hashtag toxic parent, hashtag healing journey, break the cycle. I read every comment. "You're so strong. Cutting off toxic parents is an act of self-love. Parents like this should be sued for emotional abuse." I didn't reply. I didn't explain. I just saved everything. Screenshotted, noted the date and time, backed it all up on a separate hard drive, every video, every post, every comment he interacted with or replied to. I filed everything into a folder labeled Evidences, Cyber Harassment, from Evan Ocht 2025. I also sent them to Attorney Greer, the same lawyer who helped me last year when a backyard contractor breached our agreement. "We can approach this as defamation and online harassment," she said. "But I need you to be very patient. Don't respond publicly. Anything you say now can be cut twisted and used against you." I nodded. I understood. I wasn't a celebrity. I didn't have fans to clear my name. And I didn't need the world to know the truth. I just needed the court to know. And I needed my son to know his mother wouldn't stay silent while being trampled. Meanwhile, Evan started receiving donations. In his Instagram bio, he linked to a personal PayPal account. The caption read, "If you've ever felt stuck with an unsupportive parent, I'm here for you. Support me in spreading healing knowledge." Every day, he live-streamed stories like, "My mom stopped me from doing what I love." And every day, strangers sent him hundreds of dollars. I got a text from Aunt Rose in Florida. "Is everything okay between you and Evan? He said you kicked him out of the house." I didn't reply directly. I just wrote, "I'm okay, Auntie." And Evan will have to face the consequences himself. A week later, Evan's video started trending. Over 200,000 views on TikTok. The title, "I Thought I Was Crazy, Turns Out I Was Just Emotionally Manipulated by My Mom." He was too good at performing. Eyes glistening. Voice cracking at just the right moments. And the ending, It made my heart clench. If you have a mom like this, know that you're not alone. They only love you when you obey. But once you grow up, they call you a traitor. I didn't scream. I didn't call him. I just took a deep breath, opened my laptop, and forwarded the entire clip to Attorney Greer's assistant. That weekend, I heard Evan had bought a used red Ford Mustang registered in Fulton County. He filmed a video standing next to the car saying, "When you stop letting your parents control your wallet and your mind, you start driving the car of your dreams." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I knew that car wasn't bought with wealth mindset. It was paid for by mothers like me sending love to the wrong person. 2 weeks later, a friend sent me a screenshot. Evan had just posted a job ad looking for someone to manage a healing community for survivors of toxic parenting. Monthly salary, $500. Position type, growth-oriented internship. I didn't respond. I just wrote in my journal, "Silence isn't weakness. It's preparation. And preparation becomes justice." Around the same time, I moved into a new apartment, a small studio near Grant Park, East Atlanta. Not fancy, but it was mine. My name on the lease. No one yelling at me. No one stealing my debit card. No one calling me a parasite. I made dinner, ate alone, and felt peace. Strange, isn't it? How I had to walk away from my own son just to find my voice again. His real name is Evan, but on the contract, I saw through a fake email he signed as Mark Emerson. I will never forget that moment. I was sitting in my new office HR department at a logistics company in Decatur, Georgia. The receptionist called me gently. "There's a Michael Klein on the line. He says he's a real estate agent helping process the sale of your house." I froze. What house? 58 Oak Ridge Drive, Atlanta. Registered under the name Margaret West. I politely asked for his number and stepped outside to call him back from the parking lot. Michael picked up right away. His voice was professional. "Yes, I'm working with your son, Mark. He said you gave him power of attorney to handle the sale of the current property." I closed my eyes. He had just committed signature forgery. "Could you email me a copy of that power of attorney?" I asked. "I'd like to verify it before confirming anything." He said, "Of course. I just received it yesterday. It has your e-signature and a scanned, notarized copy." I opened Michael's email at exactly 2:17 p.m., and there it was, a property transfer authorization form stating I, Margaret J. West, confirm granting full authority to my son, Mark Emerson, to act on my behalf in signing, handling, and transferring ownership of the property ID 0187622. The signature below looked similar to mine, but it wasn't mine. And of course, I had never signed or notarized any such document. I forwarded the email to Attorney Greer immediately. "You don't need to do anything right now," Ms. Greer said, calm as ever. "We're going to let him take one more step. They're building their own legal trap." I was surprised. "You don't want to stop him?" "No," she said. "We want clear evidence of criminal action, a completed act, not just intent. If he only tries, we handle it in civil court. But if he signs and submits, it becomes document forgery and identity fraud. That's a felony under Georgia state law." I nodded. A chill ran down my spine. And yet I felt lighter. Because after everything, the truth would finally speak without me needing to shout. 3 days later, I received an update from Greer's office. Evan, or rather Mark Emerson, had submitted a preliminary sale agreement to a third party. He used a different email address and attached a fake ID doctored from my old state ID, but with his photo pasted on it. Not only had he forged my signature, he was now committing legal impersonation. I asked Greer, "What now?" "Now we hand the file over to city police, and we issue an official notice to all real estate agents in the area. Do not proceed with any property transaction under your name without direct verification. I also called Michael, the original broker, back. He was honest. I'm sorry. I didn't expect this. He was so convincing. Even brought in a therapy certificate saying you had a history of manipulation and shouldn't be contacted directly. I was stunned. My own son, the little boy who used to knock on my bedroom door every Sunday morning to hand me a glass of milk. Now telling strangers I was mentally unstable just to steal a house. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept remembering small fragments of the years I raised him, the time I rushed him to the ER with a fever at age 7, the time I used my property deed to get a loan so he could have a piano for music class, the time I walked over a mile home just to save gas money for his job interview, and now he was trying to sell the house. I sweated 20 years to keep with a forged signature. If anyone asks me if it hurt, yes. But I didn't cry anymore. I had learned how to feel pain without breaking. A week later, Evan called me. I didn't answer. Then came a text. I know you saw it. Are you really going to blow this out of proportion? It's no big deal. Don't you love me anymore? No apology. No admission of guilt. Just the next act in a losing performance. I didn't reply. I just opened my banking app to double-check accounts secure, all auto payments canceled. Login devices list, only mine remained. I checked the digital lock on my new apartment. Keypad access, rotating passcode every 10 days. I played some jazz, brewed a cup of tea, and wrote another line in my journal. Silence doesn't mean helplessness. Sometimes silence is the sharpest blade because it doesn't strike from the front. It waits for the guilty to fall into it. Evan went live at exactly 7 p.m. on Sunday night. The title read, "The Truth About the Mother Who Kicked Me Out and Sued Her Own Son." I didn't watch it live, but clips flooded Facebook, TikTok, even Reddit. A friend from church sent me a link and a message. "Are you okay?" I can't believe he actually said that. I clicked to see. Evan sat in his old bedroom, the one where I used to fold his blankets every morning, now turned into a mini studio. Ring light glowing bright. Behind him, a handwritten sign read, "You're not alone." His voice was slow, dramatic, with deliberate pauses. The kind of performance that says, "I've been hurt." He looked straight into the camera like he was talking directly to other victims. I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to expose the person who gave birth to me. But I can't let the lies keep spreading. I grew up under control. Every decision, every dream smothered by someone who couldn't stand losing power. When I became independent, when I made my first paycheck, she called me a traitor. When I tried to sell the house we shared, the one I'd lived in since I was 14, she sued me. Each quote was clipped and reposted everywhere. The comments poured in classic toxic mom. Boomer parents treating their kids like property again. Freedom always has a price. You're finally living your truth. But me, I wasn't sad. I was clear-headed. Because 3 days before I had already sent all the original documents, the fake contract, the forged ID, and even Evan's message saying, "She'll never find out," to Attorney Greer. She had filed a formal report with TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram titled Digital Defamation and Impersonation Report. Ongoing investigation. Attached legal documentation and fraud evidence. Some platforms responded almost immediately. The next day, Evan's video vanished from TikTok, then from Instagram. His YouTube channel was demonetized. Some videos were flagged under review for misinformation. The online tide began to turn. In a Reddit group where Evan used to post financial awakening content, someone commented, "Isn't it weird? His mom hasn't said a word, but verified legal documents are getting leaked," another user replied. I was once sucked into a group like this. The moment your mentor starts crying and blaming their family, that's when you know they've got no real value. I didn't need to clap back. I didn't need to speak. I just watched his mask slowly slip off his own face. Evan tried to strike back. He posted a story. My channel's being falsely flagged. Someone's trying to silence me. But this time, no one defended him. When you play the victim too well, the moment you're exposed, everyone sees you as an actor. I wasn't thrilled. I wasn't smug. I just felt a bit lighter. Like the world, late as it was, had finally begun to see what I'd never been able to say out loud. That night, I brewed a pot of Earl Grey tea and sat on the balcony of my new apartment. October air was gentle and cool. I opened my phone and posted a simple photo, a cup of tea, the sky, and a book. The caption was just one line. The truth has no volume, but it echoes longer than a scream. The next morning, Fulton County Court sent me an email confirming that my property fraud case had been accepted for criminal review. Police would summon Evan for a hearing within 14 days. I didn't call to tell him. He didn't need to know what I had done. I just closed my laptop and crossed off a line in the journal I'd started the day I walked out of that house. Protect my dignity with the law, not with tears. Not even 2 weeks after I got the keys to my new apartment, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages came from random numbers, all short and cold. "You're so cruel. What kind of mother sues her own son over a house? Hope you sleep well on that pile of money, you heartless witch." I didn't reply. I didn't delete them either. I just saved everything and forwarded it all to Attorney Greer. I had no idea what was going on. Until an old friend sent me a link. TikTok, @EvanTruthVideo My Truth. Being the son of someone who never loved me. I tapped it. There was his face. Thinner. Hollow eyes. Voice trembling slightly. Holding a coffee mug like he was trying to look calm. I'm not a victim. I'm just a son who was never loved. I didn't want anything but freedom. And my mom chose to sue me instead of hearing me out. For the first time, he didn't look like he was acting. But then I scrolled to the comments. And this time, it was different. No flood of sympathy. No more hashtags like healing from toxic moms. Just short, sharp comments. "This again, bro. Why don't you just get a job like everyone else? Aren't you tired of pretending?" One account wrote, "I donated $50 to this guy. Now I see the house was never sold. The lawsuit's real. I feel scammed." His girlfriend, Talia, 21, the one who was in every TikTok with Evan. She deleted all their pictures together, even posted a short clip with the caption, "You can't build a future with someone who survives by reliving their pain." Background music, "Don't Blame Me," Taylor Swift. Just one sentence, but I knew for Evan that hit the hardest. That night I got a message from an old neighbor, Janet. Something felt off. "Last night I heard shouting from your old house. Sounded like someone broke something. Then a police car showed up out front. Not sure if it's got anything to do with Evan." I didn't ask more. I already knew the wheel had finally turned in the right direction. A week later, Evan posted one last video. The background was the old kitchen, the same one where I used to bake cookies every weekend. Now it was empty. Fridge door half open, only a jar of mustard inside. No ring light, no script. Just a phone propped on a box of instant noodles recording from a low angle. I'm not going to apologize, because I'm not even sure if I was wrong. But I've lost more than I thought I would. I lost my channel. I lost my girlfriend. I lost my community. And I lost the one person who forgave me more times than I deserved. He didn't say my name, but I knew for once he wasn't lying. Evan disappeared from social media 3 days later. No posts, no live streams, no updates. I thought the story had ended. Until one late afternoon after work, I opened my phone and saw a message from an unknown number. I'm not coming to ask for forgiveness. I just want to know. If I knock on the door, will you hear me? I didn't reply. I just stared at the screen quietly. Jazz music playing softly in the cafe I liked to stop by. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. There was only one feeling: I was no longer someone he could lead around. That night in my journal, I wrote, "He's starting to hear himself, because all the noise he created has finally gone silent. I don't need to say anything. Alone in the truth, that's the loudest bell he's ever heard." I heard the knock around 10 p.m. Soft, slow, like the person knocking was afraid to disturb the air. I knew who it was. I didn't look through the peephole. I didn't turn on the porch light. I just stood quietly on the other side of the door, hand on the knob. But I didn't turn it. He knocked again. 2 taps. Then stopped. A sigh. I walked back to the living room, sat on the couch, and watched the porch light dim on the indoor camera screen. He sat on the steps, pulled his hood up, arms wrapped around his knees. He didn't say a word. I remembered the first time he ever knocked on my door when he was little. Just to ask, "Mom, can I lie next to you for a while?" Back then, I always opened the door, even if I was working, even if I was sad, even when I was so tired I could barely stand. But now the person outside wasn't that child anymore. He sat there all night. I knew because every time I woke up, I peeked through the curtains. At 1:14 a.m., he took off his hood. His hands were shaking. At 3:27, his head rested on his knees like he was dozing off. At 4:50, he stood up and walked to the car, then came back. Sat down again. Same spot. He didn't knock anymore. At 7 a.m., I opened the door. He was still there. Eyes puffy. Face drained. Clothes wrinkled, shoes soaked with morning dew. I didn't say, "Come in." I just said, "Stand up. You can't stay here." He got up slowly, like someone who'd forgotten how to use his own legs. I walked inside. Didn't look back. He followed. No apology. No excuse. Sat on the edge of the couch like he was in a police station. I placed a glass of water on the table. Flat tone. Drink. He drank. His hands shook like it was the first decent thing he'd touched in months. Finally, he spoke. Voice raw and hoarse. I messed everything up. I didn't nod. I didn't shake my head. I lost everything. I looked straight into his eyes. For the first time in months, I didn't see defensiveness. Not blame. Just emptiness. Nothing left to hide behind. Then he asked, "Why did you open the door?" I looked deep into his eyes and answered simply, "Because this time you knocked like a man." I didn't forgive. I didn't hug him. I gave conditions: a mattress in the spare room, a list of jobs at the gas station, the warehouse, the post office. 30 days. No excuses. No live streams. No lying. He nodded. "I deserve worse," he whispered. I replied, "You do, but this is all I have left." This time he cried, not because he got caught, but because, for the first time, someone saw him clearly and didn't look away. I didn't cry. I had already cried, a long time ago. This wasn't a reunion. This was recovery, and recovery isn't sweet. It's slow. It's bitter. It doesn't come from, "I'm sorry." It comes from owning the damage. In my journal that night I wrote, He knocked not because he was cold or hungry, but because for the first time he could hear his own voice without a microphone, without an audience, without the lights. The first week, Evan tried. Maybe too hard. He woke up early, made his bed like he was in the military, walked 11 blocks to the gas station, asked for a job pumping gas and wiping windshields. At night, he washed dishes, scrubbed the floors, cleaned the fridge, all the things he used to mock me for calling them low-energy tasks. One evening, I came home from work and found dinner already made. There was a small note on the table. "You don't have to cook. I owe you more than this." I wasn't touched. I was cautious, because I've seen him act before on camera and in real life. In the second week, Evan asked, "Can I share my story on a podcast?" Not to attack you, just to help people going through something similar. I set my tea down on the table. "No, why not? I'm not saying anything bad. Because silence is part of the lesson, and you're not done learning." He dropped onto the couch with a sigh. "You don't believe I've changed." I answered, "I don't need to believe, I need to see." On day 18, Evan got his first paycheck, $447 after taxes. He handed me $300. I pushed it back. "I don't need your money. I need you to pay back something bigger." "What trust?" That night, he stayed up late. I heard soft footsteps in the hallway. Then the balcony door creaked open, the spot where I usually sit to write in my journal. I walked out. He was sitting there, hugging his knees, eyes lost in the dark, like searching for an answer. "Mom." He spoke without turning around. "Will it ever be like it used to be?" I sat beside him close enough not to feel cold, but not too near. "No, it won't be like before. But if you stay steady, it could become something else. Something better." On day 21, I handed him a small envelope. Inside were 3 pages. A housework schedule, simple but firm. A list of things I will and won't do: no laundry, no cleaning his room, no fixing his mistakes for him. A 30-day agreement: no live streaming, no retelling the past, no using my image for anything. He read every line in silence. "You wrote this like a contract." I looked straight at him. "Because I'm done living in a relationship full of words but no one keeping them." He signed. For the first time, he taped the pages to the fridge himself. I began to notice changes. He didn't say thank you, he washed the dishes. He didn't say sorry with tears, he fixed the bathroom door hinge. He didn't shout, "Believe in me." He stuck a small note on the bathroom mirror. "Actions don't need an audience." On day 26, I got a Facebook message from a woman I didn't know. She was Talia's mother, Evan's ex-girlfriend. "You don't know me, but I want to say I admire you. I used to think you were a controlling mom. But after my daughter left Evan, she said, 'Mom, she didn't abandon her son. She just refused to be a victim one more time.' I understand now. Thank you for standing firm even when no one was on your side." I read it, then turned off the screen. I didn't reply. I didn't need comfort. I just needed to know what I did didn't disappear into nothing. That evening, Evan knocked on my door. Not like before. Not shy, not trying to earn favor. Just calm. "I know tomorrow is day 30, I nodded. "If you say leave, I will leave." "I know. But if you say stay, this time I'll stay, not to be forgiven, but to become someone who deserves the chance you gave me." I looked at him for a long time, then said, "Stay, but not for comfort. Stay to keep paying back piece by piece what you once took through silence, denial, and words that had no heart." In my journal that night, I wrote, "I haven't forgiven him yet. but I see hope. Because for the first time, he isn't asking me to believe him, he's living like I already do. And that is the first real sign after so many months lost in lies. It was the morning of day 45 since he knocked on the door again. I opened the cupboard and took out 2 ceramic mugs, one for me, one for him. He stepped out of his room, hair still messy, wearing a button-up shirt that had been ironed not by me. We didn't say anything. We didn't need to. Because everything that needed proving had already been proven through quiet persistence. Evan worked consistently at the gas station. No complaining, no live streams. He split his paycheck into 3 parts. 1 part into savings, 1 part to slowly repay the short-term app loans he had once fallen into, 1 part to buy groceries and contribute to the utilities. He didn't hand the money to me. He just taped the receipts to the fridge as if to say, I remember I used to never do this. Now I will. I never mentioned the times I saw him out on the balcony writing something in a notebook. I didn't know if it was an apology, a journal, or a plan. I just knew no more ring lights, no more cameras, no more pretending. Only a young man finally learning to be a real man without needing to look strong. One day, he walked into the kitchen and handed me a letter. It's for you, Mom, not to be reread, just for you to know I've kept it in mind. I didn't open it right away. I placed it on the bookshelf, the same shelf where I kept his old middle school essays. One of them had said, Mom is the person I love most, even though she makes me do math more than play video games. Suddenly, my chest tightened. Not because I was being soft, but because memories don't fade easily. That night I opened the letter. The first line read, I'm not apologizing the old way. I didn't write this to get anything back. Just to say, if you haven't forgiven me, I'm still here. If you never forgive me, I'm still grateful you opened the door. I folded it, left it there. I didn't cry. I'd cried enough. Now, it was time to live. The next morning, I pulled out 3 outfits from my closet, ones I used to avoid, because I thought they were too young for my age. I chose the navy blue one, tied a scarf around my neck, put on light lipstick, pinned my silver hair up. Evan walked past and paused. You look really different. I smiled. I'm not different. I just stopped shrinking myself. We never went back to how things were. I didn't cook dinner every day. He didn't call me mommy like before. We weren't a family that had healed. We were 2 people who had once fallen apart, now learning to live together again as kind, grown adults. I still kept copies of the legal records. Still had my accounts locked. Still had my lawyer in my contacts. Not because I didn't forgive, but because trust is precious. And it should never be given without condition, not even to someone you gave birth to. At the year-end company gathering, I was awarded the Quiet Inspiration Trophy. A young co-worker came up to me at the buffet and asked, Do you have kids? If you do, I bet they really look up to you. I smiled and answered softly, I do. And once he forgot who I was. But now maybe he's learning again, one piece at a time. On the way home, I stopped by the grocery store, bought 2 loaves of brown bread, a jar of peanut butter, and a bottle of honey. At checkout, Evan texted, Do you want toast tonight? I just replied, Yes. But this time, you're doing the dishes. On the last page of my journal, I wrote, I'm not old. I'm just more patient. Not the woman waiting for someone to make things right. I'm the woman who learned to live right, even if it meant walking alone. And now I'm not walking alone anymore. But if I ever have to, again, I'll still walk strong.